Hi everybody, I'm Susie Dobbs.
I'm Hadley Barrett.
Welcome to Beyond Rodeo.
I welcome you to come along with us as we take a little closer look at the aches, the pains, and the glamour of the sport of rodeo. My co-host is country music great Susie Dobbs, and she has some very interesting stories about the people and the places that make up the fiber of our country. Stay with us. This is kind of a look into the life of Harry Vold, the man, his family, and what he means to pro rodeo. These are some of the things that invariably cross your mind when you open the gate to this ranch. First of all, you can't help but feel a little bit humbled that you have the chance to be here. Through the gracious permission of the Vold family, we're going to show you some of the behind-the-scenes images of one of rodeo's great legends. The Harry Vold saga will invariably begin and end with raising, caring for, and presenting at major rodeos some of the very best pro rodeo livestock in the industry. But we in rodeo have time after time used this man's guidance as a direction for better things in rodeo. And these are the kind of things that don't just happen. It has to be a passion, something that's in your heart, and that certainly is the case with the Volds. That sign at the end of the lane kind of says it all. Welcome to Rattlesnake Butte Ranch. Enter at your own risk. Kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of saying you're on your own from here. From the livestock pens to the history displayed in their home, it's all rodeo. You'll see in their home walls filled with pictures of everything from Hollywood stars, rodeo stars, champion bucking horses and bulls, displayed by not only their pictures, but also their images on the wall in real life. You'll also find autographs and messages written on their wall by their hundreds and hundreds of friends. Harry and Karen Vold, they are two of the most respected people in rodeo, and we thank them for allowing us to invade their privacy and bring this show to our viewers. If you've ever been around rodeo, if you know anything about the business, then you know the name Harry Vold. We all do. Great livestock contractor and, as I've said many times, one of the icons of our game. Harry, thanks for joining us on the show to begin with.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
And you come originally from Canada, is that correct?
That's correct. I was born and raised east of Ponoka in Alberta, Canada, on a ranch, and lived there until I was nearly 40 years old. I come down here in 1966.
Well, how long have you been on the ranch out here now?
35 years, southeast of Pueblo. Yeah, I've been on this ranch 35 years.
Well, you know, I know that you've worn many hats, and those that know you know that you come from a ranching background, a cowboy background. I've even seen you in the movies. You did some announcing and picking up in what was the name of that movie?
There was two of them. I was involved with Honkers was the first one, which Larry Mahand was there, and the second one was When Legends Die. Those were the two movies, and it's not often that I have a chance to both pick up and announce.
At the same time.
Right.
And it scared me a little when I found this out because I'm looking for job security, and I was worried about you.
I bet you were.
You never know about that.
No.
Well, and I know that you have been on the steering committee. You've served on the board many, many times. You made great contributions to the PRCA. But, you know, I want to talk to you today about something that's maybe even closer to your heart than that, and that's bucking horses. You had them for a lot of your life, but when did you start raising them yourself, breeding them and raising them?
Well, we started, of course, way back when I was a boy, but not really with the intention of being in the rodeo business. We were raising horses and bucking some horses, and you know, it was a different story when they had a stampede, as they called most of them.
Right.
And several people would bring a few horses in, and they'd be trailed in. And that's the way it was handled, and they were bucked. But when I moved down here in '66, it was one of the first things that I did was take a few of my mares and single them off, and I took a few mares up to old Ernest Tuke at Ekalaka, Montana.
Right.
And that's bred 2 mares to the old original General Custer, and that's how we got the main start.
That's the backgrounding of the herd that you have now, then,
It
right?
is, for a fact.
Well, and I would imagine you would attribute the fact that you were an auctioneer, that you had seen all kinds of horses in your travels,
Right.
and that probably gave you a little better idea of what to do.
Well, true. And you know, my father was an auctioneer, and he was a horse trader and put on a lot of horse sales. And we learned quite a lot quickly about dispositions. And he would have a load of horses come in on the railroad, and he'd spot one immediately and say, take that horse out, you know, because some farmer will have trouble with him.
Right.
And that was the very horse that we needed for what we do today.
That's right. You need that kind of character.
Exactly.
And I know that you have had Bucking Horse of the Year awarded to you how many times?
9 times I've won the Bucking Horse of the Year.
And in the bull department, you've had that a couple times,
Twice.
haven't you?
I've had it twice. 3 times to be exact. The one bull won it twice. 777 won it in 80 and 81.
And you know, it's interesting to me, you never did hide that good stock. A lot of times, guys have a candidate for Bucking Horse of the Year, and they don't like to expose him. They don't want him to have any bad trips or anything. You exercised him. You put him out there on the main line, and they performed. But what, if you had one, what was the favorite horse you had?
Well, I suppose I would have to put Necklace was a mare that went to the national
Right.
finals and won that award, I think, down there either 5 or 7 times. She was obviously the best bareback horse we ever had. Bobby Joe was raised on this ranch out here, and I won the world with him 3 times, and he
Right.
was runner-up twice, so I'd have to name him as the best bronc.
Right, and he had a charisma about him. I remember there were times that we paraded the arena with him after he bucked,
Oh, yeah.
just so that people could see a champion.
Yeah.
And I think that he knew he had the silver halter,
I
don't
think
you?
he did too. And you know, he looks just as good as he ever did. And I guess if I didn't have so many ladies involved in my rodeo business, I'd be bucking him yet.
And you do have, too.
I
don't you?
do
You,
have.
you have daughters, you have your wife, and a lot of people
And
in
they
the
all
Vold
have
outfit.
something to say about it.
They do, but you know what? They're all good hands, and they do understand it.
Yeah.
In your personal home, you and Karen, it is absolutely the greatest museum that I have ever seen, and I say that with good taste, because you have pictures, you have history of the game, you have the halters of the horses, the buckles. I just think it's absolutely great. When did you start saving all of that?
Well, it's been going for over 25 years, I would say, in that house. And we kept putting the buckles in the tables in the various places and the halters on the wall and pictures of friends and people, you know, contract act people. My wife was a trick rider, as
Right.
you know,
Yes.
and recognized as one of the good ones. And she had a lot of friends in the contract act business. And she, of course, believes in them very strongly and has all their pictures on the wall, as well as her father being a barrel man, funny man, clown, and a lot of his friends were clowns. And so obviously that's one of the reasons the walls are covered with those people.
Right. Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have the very same sacred attitude about the livestock. Do you not have a cemetery there with headstones of some of these horses?
Yes, I do. For every horse that we had of any significance is buried on the hill there with a headstone.
Well, you know, it kind of says it on the sign at your gate about people being welcome. And Harry, you and I both know that there are many, many forms of wealth. But I would imagine that the friendships that you've created across the country probably mean more than anything in the world to you.
Absolutely. My friends mean much, much more than all the money they can pile up.
You know, friends, when you're around this man, he'll give you kind of a contagious smile. He'll give you a pat on the back. And he's always quick with a word of encouragement, and it'll just make you happy to know Harry Vold.
Thank you very much, Hadley.
Thank you. I'm here in Kansas City at the American Royal with Karen Vold. And first of all, I'm going to apologize to the audience that we don't have time enough to talk about all the things we'd like to. But I'm going to begin with your trick riding. I know that that is a page of the past with you, Karen, but there's still a lot of things in the present associated with trick riding. Students, basically, right?
That's correct, Hadley. I trick rode for about 17 years professionally, but now I teach. We've had some schools that we hold at the ranch that have gone on for, I don't know, maybe 12 years now. And I have a partner, Linda Schultz, that helps me. We do it out of Pueblo, Colorado, there at the ranch.
Right.
And so you don't miss it so much when you are teaching it. You know, I learned what you do when you retire. You become a teacher.
You know, and there, for example, there have been a lot of good musicians that can't teach. They can't tell people how to do it. They can just do it. So when did you find out that you had that kind of a communication?
As far as being able to teach?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Different ones would ask me, you know, and I had probably the best teacher there ever was Dick Griffith.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
well, he was a great performer, but he also was a good teacher. I learned a lot of things from him, but I learned a lot of things that I didn't want to get across to my students either, because I became practically a slave to Dick in that I didn't think that I could perform unless he was around.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, and so I don't want that to get across to our students.
True, and I don't think it does, because I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of people that you tutored. You know, I'm going to talk to you just for a moment about a side of your life that a lot of people don't even know. You're one of the hardest working people I've ever known. You know how to care for horses. You know how to select the right horse for the right position. You've been behind the scenes in the Vold Rodeo Company for a long, long time that way. I guess you know a lot of about people and a lot about horses. That's the only way I could answer that. Does that do it?
I guess you might say that. You know, since I was a young girl, I guess my dream was to grow up and marry a cowboy, but I always felt like that I wanted to be the woman that was the stepping stones to the man's success. That's what I believe, truly. And I was fortunate enough to get to marry my cowboy, and he's very involved in rodeo and very busy. And so the one thing I can do is to work behind the scenes. A lot of people ask me, you know, what is my occupation? And I just say I'm the Girl Friday, whatever you want to call it, behind the scenes. But there's a lot of things that people don't realize has to be done behind the scenes.
That's
a
true.
lot of, and I love to deal with the horses. I don't deal with people nearly as well as I do horses. I can communicate with them better, so I like to be in the barn and let Harry be out front.
So Karen, I'm going to take you out of the barn and put you in the kitchen for a moment. I know that your cookbook is extremely popular, and I was just wondering where it all came from your recipes or everybody's?
I tell you what, Hadley, it's been a hobby of mine most of my life. I've collected recipes for over 50 years. I'm not telling you how old I am. I just say over 50 years.
We're not going into that now.
But a lot of them have been shared by some great cooks around the country. When we've been in the rodeo business and been invited to people's homes, committee parties, barbecues, that type of thing.
Right.
Whenever I ate something at somebody's house that I really enjoyed, I asked them if they would share the recipe with me. And they did, and I kept them for years, and I was always going to do this as a legacy to my children. I was always going to write a cookbook.
Oh, nice idea.
But
yeah.
I was, you know, I thought maybe when I got too old to do anything else, maybe when I was 80 or something, I might do it. Well, it ended up that a couple of years ago, my daughter has ladies cowgirl camps.
Yeah, she does, doesn't she?
And I cooked for the first one she ever had because of the drought in Colorado. I was forced to it because the town closed up because there was no water, where she had reserved a bed and breakfast place for this camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I cooked for them, and the lady said, you should write a cookbook. And I said, I'm going to one of these days. Well, of course, when that camp was over, Kirsten said, Mother, you need to write it this year, and I will sell it next year at my camp. So it actually, I have to admit, it took me a year to write it. It was not easy, but it's not all of the, if I'd had all the recipes in there that everybody wanted, it would have been a dictionary.
Yeah.
So I had to limit it, you know.
You know, during the Colorado State Fair, we get an opportunity to sample that because we have a luncheon out at the ranch every year.
Yeah.
And, oh, man, the food's good. We always look forward to that. And what is that melon? What is the official name of that melon that I just spoiled
that you
myself
love
on?
so much? They're called honey rocks, and
Yeah.
it's a cross between a cantaloupe and a honeydew melon.
And they're raised right in the area
Right
where
there
you
in
live.
Arkansas Valley, yes, sir.
Yeah, right.
And they are good. They're sweeter than a cantaloupe, but they're orange and look like a cantaloupe, but
Well,
they're wonderful.
You told me in private conversation before we started this interview that, and you and I were trying to figure out the year because it was associated with Oklahoma City and the NFR, but a special recipe that you use for Christmas dinner, is that what you said?
It is. It's become our family's favorite traditional Christmas dinner. It's beef tenderloin, and it is in the book, and I've oftentimes told people that the price of the book, this recipe is worth the price of the book alone, because I collected it from a lady that had us over to dinner when the NFR was in Oklahoma City, and this is what she served, and it was so fabulous. I asked her if she'd share the recipe, and I'm sorry to say that I can't even remember her last name. It's wonderful it is, and I write a little about where I got the recipes. In the cookbook, I write where I got them and who I got them from.
Yeah.
So this recipe just says it's Judy's
Well,
from Oklahoma City.
There's got to be some interesting stories there, but I'm going to tell you folks at home that if you want that cookbook, you let us know on Beyond Rodeo, and I will tell you exactly how to get that done. And if we can't get it done any other way, I'll call you, Karen. Is that okay?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Well, we have talked about maybe 6% of the colorful life of Karen Vold, but you know, in your story today, you told me something that pretty well verifies the way so many of us feel about you. You wanted to marry the cowboy. You wanted to be a supporting role in his life.
Yes,
And you know how we feel about you and Harry Vold? I think you're the wind beneath his wings. That's good.
You know, that's a fine compliment because that's one of my very favorite songs, and that's really what I hope to be and want to be. The wind beneath his wings is right.
You know, you're one of our favorite people, so we broke even there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susie, those were some great stories, and I can't wait till the next show. But remember, until then, keep the wind to your back.
And may God bless you until we see you next time.